Hello and welcome to Module 2 of our MED 580 Innovative Educational Products and Services. In this module, we're going to be talking about innovative social media channels, social media applications. We're going to be discussing everything that answers your question on what is social media, and we will look at a general perspective on social media. We'll provide a general background on social media, and then it'll be your turn to go and do some research about how we can apply these social media applications and channels and products in an educational setting. So if you're ready, let's jump right in. We're going to be looking at an introduction to social media. We're going to discuss microblogging and blogging. You probably don't know some of the concepts and themes and names of some of the things that you do all the time. Microblogging is what we call Twitter. And then we're going to look at podcasts and webinars. We're going to look at discussion boards. We're going to look at sharing photos and videos, which we do a whole lot on Instagram, Snapchat, YouTube, and all the rest of that. Then we're going to look at social networks. This is the plethora of concepts. This is actually called a word map. And it's, a plethora of themes and topics and concepts that are related to social media. Take a minute and look at it a little bit closer. The objectives are stated on the slide, and I encourage you to go back and look at it. It identifies different objectives for the different concepts that we're going to look into. So some of the social media platforms that some of you might be aware of are social networking platforms like Facebook, LinkedIn. Google Plus is no longer being serviced. It's no longer available. Microblogging sites will be things like Twitter, Tumblr. These are, it allows you in a very concise way to put out a blog, but with very limited characters, photo sharing, video sharing. As we go through this, my goal is that, as I mentioned earlier, that you become familiar with the general concepts of social media, know what is out there, and know how, your students, your participants, and the rest of the world is using these applications. Because come to think about it, we're dealing with digital natives. Our students, most of them were born, in the era of technology. So they use these tools, and if we're going to be effective in interacting with them, if we're going to be effective in meeting them, where it's comfortable for them so that we can impact the knowledge, we need to have a good understanding of the places where they operate. So that's our goal here today. So again, photo sharing, video sharing applications, we're familiar with most of this. Social media involves the use of computer-generated tools to empower users to share user-generated materials. So essentially, every time that you're on the internet, you're on the web, and you're interacting in a way that gives you the flexibility to share something, to post something, to upload something, and to get reactions and comments and feedback, that you're operating in a social media space. Once there's a community, there's, exchange going on, and, it's facilitated with a free flow of user-generated artifacts, content, videos, pictures, text, and all that. That's social media. Again, I put some of the very common ones: Facebook, YouTube, Wikipedia, Twitter, LinkedIn, eHow, Dig, Blogger, Flickr, WordPress. All of these are useful for different kinds of activities. Facebook, we're all familiar with YouTube videos, Wikipedia, when we want basic information about anything, Twitter, short character, microblogs, LinkedIn, professional network, eHow, questions, Blogger, if you want to create a blog, Flickr, sharing pictures, WordPress, creating a website. Essentially, social media has to be used in a way that leverages its strengths. Whenever you're involved in social media, you want to be sure that there's a participatory component to what you're doing with it. You want to be sure that whatever you're posting, you're uploading is authentic. You want to be resourceful at all times. You want to provide some kind of value, and you want to be sure you're credible. As educators, we do have a lot of opportunities to use social media to reach our students. We have opportunities to create private groups on Facebook. We can, use Twitter to tweet out a link to either websites, link to blogs, link to classroom codes, and all of that. We can reach our students. We can reach a large audience. We use a lot of YouTube in our lesson plans because there's really no point reinventing the wheel. And if you find a lesson video online that sufficiently captures the concept that you're trying to teach, you're able to bring the link from that video into your lessons and make it available to your students. So essentially, we want to be guided by these 4 principles when we utilize social media. Continuing in that vein, we want to be guided by the ethics of always ensuring that we are looking at honesty, we're looking at protecting other people's privacy, we're respecting the members of a community, any community that we're operating in on social media, whether it be Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube. You want to be respectful, you want to be responsible at all times in your postings, in your comments, in your feedback. Some of the rules that you will find across board, across different social media channels, are that you want to use the channel for what its intended purpose is. You don't want to be a dirty spammer just sending things to people unsolicited. You want to be respectful. We already talked about that. Have a personality that is, endearing. And I dare say, establish yourself as an authority. As an educator, you want to establish yourself as an authority so that people see your expertise and, reach back to you for professional advice. Provide context when you're seeking a connection. Don't just send a message to someone saying hi. Let them know exactly, if you've met them before, where you met them, how you met them, or why you're connecting to them. Maybe they have a shared interest in all of that. When you're responding to a thread, you want to talk about the topic. You don't want to go off points. You want to be as transparent as possible in all your dealings. You want to be nice. It always pays to be nice. And so these are some of the guidelines for posting in the different media, Facebook, Twitter, and some of the others. Come back here and take a closer look. Microblogging is what people do on Twitter, and a lot of people don't even know what the terminology is. It's blogging with short sentences, individual images and links. You want to use links to take your readers to a more detailed content. So you could link a blog, you could link a website, you could link a white paper, you could link an article. You put the link in Twitter within the number of characters that it affords you, but you get two for the price of one, because people get to see this. I mean, you have visibility for whatever it is that you're trying to bring attention to, and then you give people an opportunity to go and read more. The files in a microblogging environment are usually smaller file size. Twitter and the rest of them emphasize 140 character limitation. You keep it succinct, and it's a great tool for distributing information because it has a wide readership. You keep it thematic, simple topics like celebrity gossip, world events. It's an important source of news because people read about events and activities, breaking news, and then they retweet it and it goes viral. Okay, these are some of the categories that you have in the microblogging sphere. You could have just the classic tweets where you're just tweeting out what's going on with you. You could have an opinion kind of tweet where you have a whole conversation by people expressing their opinion about events, actions, or people or politics. You could also have tweets that are just kind of like celebrating an accomplishment, and then you have someone saying, "Oh, I climbed Mount Everest today." You have entertainment tweets where you could just tweet a video of you doing something fun just to entertain people, comedy, dance, and what have you. You have tweets that are kind of like questions. You want to find out information from a large audience of people available that are following you on Twitter, or those who have access to your Twitter account, and you tweet it out there. You may also want to just tweet a picture. So these are some of the categories that your tweets could address. Your tweet content, you want to be careful about how you choose the content, and this applies to all of your social media channels. Content is key. Content is important if you want people to take you seriously, if you want them to come back, to your channel, and if you want to be credible. It's important you pay attention to your content. I'm not going to go through all of them. I'm just going to draw attention to the fact that you want generally to keep it fun, interesting, value people's time, make sure it's relevant, keep it keep it short and concise. And with the links that you share on Twitter, you might consider using a link shortening service. I've listed some of them on here. It shortens the long URL that you don't want to put all that long URL on your Twitter because you don't even have enough characters. So you use the link shortening services. Okay, I'm going to skip through this because we have a whole lot to cover. And I encourage you to come back to the PowerPoint and update yourself on the specific information as I have it. Blogs are another social media artifact, social media channel. Blogs give you the ability to put out your thoughts, put out information, and you're able to get feedback from your readers in form of comments and contributions from your readers. So it's a type of website. A lot of our websites are almost static. We don't update them all the time, but a blog is a website that is dynamic because you're able to update your blog on a daily basis, minute basis, hourly basis. There's a very simple ease of use that makes it very flexible versus a regular website. A lot of times we're able to use blogs in education. We're able to put out information for our students on our classroom blog, in our course blog, and we can get the students to respond. We can get them to provide feedback. We can get them to ask questions, on our blog, and the instructor is able to put out instructional content, links, videos, pictures, PDF, and all of that. A blog is usually maintained by an individual. Some of the entries you may find could be commentaries, event descriptions, graphics, or videos. As I said, it has regular updates, and the entries are in reverse chronological order. You see that, as you add blog posts, the most recent ones are at the top and the old ones at the bottom. A blog is an important source of news. It's a good opportunity for sharing your thoughts and content. Some people actually do blogging as a profession and make a lot of money from it. Some of the guidelines for successful blogging include to make sure that you use catchy titles, update your blog frequently so people will keep coming back for new content, keep your posts focused, try to have a general theme or topic or area that you're blogging on so that you're not all over the place. Don't be bashful about inviting comments. Again, if you have the best blog in this world, nobody's going to know unless you promote it. So be sure to promote your blog. You can post a link to your blog in your other social media channels, and so that people are aware that you have the blog. Keep everyone engaged in your conversations, cross posts. You can put a link to other people's blogs in your blog and request the same reciprocity. And by that, you're exposing your blog and you're making it more known by people who go to those other blogs and those people who are already online or who are already familiar with blogs. You want to avoid negativity as much as possible. And you want to stand by your content, even when you have, if you have some dissension or people are not in agreement with what you're reading, you don't want to get into a back and forth with them. You want to just, basically as politely as possible, stand by what you're reading. It's important that you monitor your blog regularly as you're posting. You want to monitor their blog monitoring software that will tell you about visits, tell you about likes, and give you data about demographics of who visited your blog. As much as possible, try to keep your readers engaged. Look at the comments and see which ones are helpful and which ones are not, and see which ones are making suggestions, and see which ones need to be attended to or addressed. The other social media tool that we want to look at is podcasting. Podcasting gives you the ability, to put out both audio and video kind of communication, something similar to a webcast, and it's typically organized in convenient episodic format, so you can have different episodes and people are able to download it. They're able to listen to it through a podcasting distribution channel. It's their choice to either download it, listen to it on a channel, listen to it offline. And the key thing about podcasts is that the barriers are there's few entry barriers, and that makes it to where we have a ton of podcasts. So in order for yours to stand out, it has to be really good quality, and you have to do a lot of marketing. Podcasts are a very interesting way to engage our students, and even to get our students to be creative. For those of us who teach either history or the arts, it's a very interesting way to get your students to give you feedback. It's a form of summative assessment. You can ask them to do a report. You can ask them to do a video on a book they've read or something, or a geographical place of interest. After you've created a podcast, you have to go ahead and share the podcast. It's typically inexpensive. It's not expensive. And these are some of the sites through which you can, publish your podcast. I'm just going to skip through them because you can come back to look at them. This tells you about the format of your podcast. You can have it as little as 10 minutes all the way to 60 minutes. It all depends on what your preference is. Webinars are another kind of social media product or service or opportunity. And a webinar is basically a web-based seminar. So where you would have stood in front of an audience delivering a seminar, with a webinar, you're able to do it with the use of a computer and software, and you conduct it online over the web. It's unlike a podcast where it's just the presenter and then the audience comes back later to either download or listen. With a webinar, there's some kind of interaction. You deliver the webinar, the participants get to ask their questions and clarify the things that you've discussed with them. Listeners are able to join you by phone or by video conference or live on a computer. It's usually looks like a presentation. You could do a slideshow, which would project as your viewers dialing, or you could just make it a verbal presentation. Typically, it's anywhere between 1 hour and 2 hours. These are some webinar hosting services. I encourage you to come back and look at them and, you know, really try to see what's unique about each of them. You're also able to publish ebooks, you know, thanks to social media. In these days we find quite a bit of ebook conversion from the hard copy books to the ebooks across schools, even in the genre of novels. You know, we're more and more able to have access to ebooks. Now, sharing videos are a very integral part of social media. The way that we know social media is the Facebooks of this world, the Instagrams, the YouTubes. You know, a lot these channels majorly thrive on the exchange of videos and pictures and images among participants, among community members, because over time the cost of, you know, producing videos and editing videos have significantly reduced. Back in the day, you needed a professional to edit your video, and you needed to purchase an expensive camcorder to even capture the images. But with our cell phones getting more and more powerful, video production is now something that is easily accessible to the ordinary person. After you have created your video, you need to be able to share your video, and that's where video sharing sites come in handy. So far, YouTube has over 90. YouTube is operating in over 90 countries with 13 million hours of video. By 2010, you know, you can imagine they had accumulated cumulatively 13 million hours of video, 35 hours every minute, over 100 million views each day, and with them grabbing over 78.5% of a market share. Yahoo Video, Vimeo, Daily Motion, IGTV, Periscope, and the rest of these are all other opportunities for video sharing. The thing about video sharing is that you want to make sure that you're attracting your viewers with the right kind of content. And once you have enough subscribers, depending on the parameters of the video sharing sites, if you meet the parameters based on your number of views, number of hours, usually you're able to monetize your video posts. YouTube has a partner program. You meet the criteria based on the number of hours, number of views for your videos on your channel. So you want to, as much as possible, ensure that your video content is appealing. And these are some of the tips that I give to you to achieve that. The stages to your video sharing: you have the primary stage where you have posted a video, and then you have a secondary stage where your friends and your connections now share that video, and then we have the tertiary stage where the video is just going viral, or it's just getting shared by people that don't even have any connection to you. They don't know you. They see the content, it's good, and they just share it. And that's how viral videos get made. But essentially, understand that the guidelines for sharing of your video, the guidelines for making sure that your content is appealing. It's also important for you to know that you're able to monetize your online videos that you post. And if your goal is to monetize your videos, you want to look at this guideline and see how you can, satisfy the information there. As educators, we start out maybe just wanting to put out information for our students, but you never know, it could become a hobby. It could even be, part of your professional practice. You could be putting out tutoring videos, and you could have such a following that you meet the criteria, and then boom, you're able to monetize your channel. So sharing photos and images is an important component of social media. And for us as educators, our students are always sharing something every minute of the day. And so why not? Why would we not bring the knowledge and bring our lessons to the platforms where our students already are? Why would we not ask our students to express their creativity and the communication of their learning using the media that they are familiar with? And that's why we're getting familiar today with social media, so that we can meet our students where they're at. Social networks, we're all familiar with that, but we probably don't know that that's what they're called. Social networks are the Facebooks, of this world, the space where people come together. Back in the day, it was, people gathering in informal groups at night, over storytelling, over a cup of coffee. And gradually we got into a phenomenon where we had discussion boards, and communities were coming together and talking about things that they had in common. And boom, we got to the stage of virtual communities. Technology has helped a lot, because technology brings people together, and then it categorizes us based on our interests, based on our experiences, depending on how we create our profile, based on just whatever it is that makes us tick, or whatever the reason is for being on that social media. Social networks help us to build relationships. They help us to connect with other people who have a similar background and interest as us. On social network, we're able to discuss topics of interest. We're able to play games. We can make friends. We can date. And then we're able to share pictures. We're able to blog. These are some examples of social networks, and I've categorized them. We have the Facebook, BuzzNet, YouTube. We have all of this. We have LinkedIn. We have instant message networks like WhatsApp, Telegram, Viber, WeChat. We have the photo, video sharing, song sharing, bookmarking sites like Instagram, Snapchat, Pinterest, Delicious. And then we have just the basic short video sharing services like TikTok. We have the microblogging services like Twitter, Vine, all of this, the micro blogging. These are discussion forums. These are friendship and dating and communication-based social networks. We have networks that are organized along professional lines. You could just have a network that all musicians, gather and exchange ideas and all that's just like the dots, Reverb Nation. And then we have social networks where just gamers, people who like to talk about games, who like to analyze a game, are able to do both voice and chat on applications like forums like Discord, Friendster. Then we have social networks where primarily it's a forum for question and answer, and this will be the likes of Quora. You go in there, you put in your question, and then it searches through the database to see if that question has been answered before. It can, spotlight or highlight for you, previous treatment of that question, or put it out there and somebody will circle around, some expert, someone who has and answer, circle around and come and provide you with the answer. We have all kinds of social networks. We have social networks for, just discovering your heritage, celebrating your genealogy. We have social networks for old school alumni, travel. We have social networks, believe it or not, for location. And so if I showed up at your shop, I could use Foursquare to say, hey, I'm here. And sometimes there are incentives by the merchants for some of this social media. So social media helps us to build, connections. It helps us to establish relationship. It helps people to connect to old friends, new friends, future friends, and you're able to keep in touch with people that are dear to you. We also have discussion boards. I'm going to run through because we have a limited time, but I encourage you to please go back and go slide by slide. My goal is that at the end of this module, you will be very familiar with social media and you will be very confident in researching to see how can you integrate social media with your learning. How can you bring it into your curriculum? How can you bring it into, your methodology? How can you reach your students using social media, considering that your students spend a lot of their time on social media? So discussion boards are another kind of, interaction we find in that social media space. And typically it's, more serious than just your average Facebook. And normally someone will start a discussion thread, and other people will come and respond and add their insights and all of that. It's, normally a gathering of people who have some kind of strong sense of commonality, and participants will generally share social, political, personal, health, products, information about all of this and their recommendations. These are some etiquette for discussion boards, and I encourage you to come and take a closer look, because I've categorized it in a way that it's easy for you to understand. Social news sites are another kind of social media. So I guess some of us are not even aware that we have social news sites where users will submit links to news stories and other web, and sometimes they would now come back and vote on it, and depending on the votes, that's how they now rank the news and determine which one makes front page and where the rest of it is positioned. So it depends on the application, it depends on the platform. Some of them will just position popular articles on the first page. In some cases, they use a human editor to determine which articles make front page. Sometimes they use machine algorithm entirely. So some of the social news sites we have are Reddit, StumbleUpon, Dig, Newsvine, Hacker News, DZone, and so on and so forth. Question and answer sites are another very common social media channel. We have examples, we'll see some examples, but with these sites, basically you're able to pose a question and leave it open to people who are willing to respond, and those who are knowledgeable to respond. Often the questions are categorized in such a way that it's visible to the subject matter experts. Answers.com is a very good example of question and answer social media sites. These are some other examples: ask.com, yahoo.com, Quora, Just Answer, Cha-Cha, and so on. So I quickly went through this as an overview. This is by no means all that you need to know about social media. This is just an introduction to get you curious. I've put up a lot of links, and just as this is by no means everything you need to know about social media. The links I put are not everything that you need to know. I encourage you to go and do research. As graduate students, we have to begin to take ownership. We have to take ownership at all times for our learning. We have to, exercise our curiosity and our scholarly abilities. So I'm challenging you to go out there and get more information, get more familiar, get more confidence about social media channels. So now it's your turn. I've done my work, I've done my research. It's your turn. So we've had a conversation so far just about social media in general and some of the different, innovative tools, innovative applications of social media. So I've exposed you and opened your eyes to this world of social media. And therefore, the question to you would now be, how can we leverage social media? How can we use social media in our teaching and learning methodology? So that's your application project. I want you to, first of all, create a Facebook group, a private group, create a Twitter account as an instructor of a technology class. And then I want for you to conduct some research. I'd like for you to use Facebook, Twitter, blog, YouTube, webinar, 5 of them. I'd like you to use those in your research, and I want you to specifically answer the following questions. Discuss for each of these 5 the description, the strategies that you would use to implement this tool in a lesson plan, in a classroom situation. And then after you're done with that, I need for you to go ahead and create a blog, your very own blog. For some of you, I'm guessing it might be your first blog. It is so exciting. I've had my other students come back to me even after the end of the semester to say, oh my goodness, this technology thing is it's so exciting. This is what I created. This is what I did with it. So I hope that your group will be just the same, that you will be curious, and beyond the classroom, you will continue to inspire yourself to use the technology tools and to learn new ones. So you will do the research on Facebook, Twitter, blogs, YouTube webinars, and your research is to discover how you can use these channels, how best you can use them in education. Then you will create a blog, and in your blog, you're going to now get the information. You're going to take the information that you got from the research, and you're going to report it in your blog under these categories. You're going to give us a description of each of this, describe Facebook, tell us how you can use Facebook for educational uses, tell us the pros and cons of using Facebook for educational uses, give us examples if you can find, give us useful links, and then let us have a list of the resources that you used. Also, I'd like for you to go back to module 1, that beautiful copyright presentation that you did. I want you to go ahead and include it in your blog as a separate blog post. Then I want you to invite your classrooms and your friends to comment on your blog, comment on the different aspects of how you put the blog together. And then you have a responsibility to also go back and give one class member a feedback. Thank you so much. So let's do a brief recap. We've talked about your social media platforms in general. We quickly touched on the ethics, the rules, the guidelines. I introduced you to microblogging, which is the tweeters and blogging. I introduced you to podcast, which is your ability to put out messages by audio, by video, messages that do not have to be played real time, messages that can be downloaded to an iPod, to a device, and utilized or played at a later time without necessarily being on the internet. Then we jumped on to webinars. We talked about ebooks. We talked about video and picture sharing. We talked about social networking like Facebook, LinkedIn, and all those good stuff. Then we talked about discussion boards and how people come and talk about ideas that they have in common with other members of the community. We touched on news sites, and then here we are. We just went over your projects, application projects. This application project is due when we open forum B. When we open forum B, I expect for you to post the response in that forum. So I have put together some resources for you. These resources include tutorial and information to help you get started with creating your blog. There's several tutorials, and then I have also included an ABC guide, like a startup guide for technology literacy, for those of you who still need to mitigate some gaps with Microsoft Office in order for you to benefit fully from this course. I have also included a sample blog, my technology blog, my very own, which I created so many years ago. Don't judge me because I have not updated that particular blog for a while, but I've basically left it for my students to use it as a model. So that's all I have for us. And I encourage you to come back to the PowerPoint and go through the slides, because I'm going to be quizzing you on terminology, and I'm very heavy on application. So please make sure that you pay attention to the questions and you do the application project, because as I said in my introductory video, we will come back in the midterms, we will come back in the final and open questions, and we're going to be asking you about these application projects, maybe in some shape or form, and you're going to need to be in front of a webcam in a screencasting situation or video conferencing situation, answering the questions, creating the artifacts. This is worth 100 points. Go for it. Thank you so much for being a wonderful audience. Thank you.